While Joe Biden was giving this record-breaking press conference of over 2 hours, which for him is, I mean, that breaks some kind of record. While he's doing that in the White House, just down the road at the Capitol building, his signature voter, legislation bill, the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis thing, all of that is just being shot down, torpedoed, just, two to the back of the head by his own party. You got two bullets in the back of the head. One of them says Kyrsten Sinema, and the other says Joe Manchin. And that's it. That's it. It's a bleeding corpse of legislation on the floor of the Senate. It's not going to happen. It's not going anywhere. The elections of the United States of America will remain in the hands of the states, and they will not be federalized, which is a great thing. And while this is happening, Joe Biden is at the White House giving this speech talking about how it's going to illegitimize our elections. Listen to this question he got from, I think it was NBC.
Speaking of voting rights legislation, if this isn't passed, do you still believe the upcoming election will be fairly conducted and its results will be legitimate?
Well, it all depends on whether or not we're able to make the case to the American people that some of this is being set up to try to alter the outcome of the election.
Okay, so he says, well, it all depends on whether or not we can convince people that Republicans are trying to change the election. So if we can convince people that Republicans are trying to do this to alter the course of the election, then I think the results will be legitimate. But if we can't, then, yeah, they'll be illegitimate. I mean, he literally is out there doing exactly what he accused Donald Trump of doing a year ago, of casting doubt on the legitimacy of the election because he doesn't like the laws that are being passed legally and constitutionally by these state legislatures. But he went on.
I think if, in fact, no matter how hard they make it for minorities to vote, I think you're going to see them willing to stand in line and defy the attempt to keep them from being able to vote.
By the way, this is the big lie. Let's talk about big lies. The big lie is not the insurrection. The big lie is not that the election in 2020 was stolen, that there was voter fraud. The big lie is that Joe Biden is telling Americans that Republicans are trying to keep black people from voting, that Republicans are trying to make it harder for black people to vote. And that is 100% not only a lie, but it's dangerous. It's race baiting. It's stoking the already tense racial situation that Joe Biden and Barack Obama and other Democrats have created and continued to perpetuate in this country. And here's the president of the United States standing in a public forum telling the press Republicans they're trying to disenfranchise not voters in blue states, not voters in red states, but black voters specifically. And that's just a bunch of BS.
I think you're going to see the people who try to keep from being able to showing up and making the sacrifice that needs to be made in order to change the law back to what it should be.
Also, nobody's trying to keep anyone from showing up. In fact, you have more opportunities to show up now than you did in 2016. You have more opportunities in Georgia to go out and vote, to securely vote. You can make sure that if you cast a vote, it's going to be counted. I mean, do you know how many votes were thrown out in Georgia because of signature problems, because they couldn't verify identity, because they weren't able to track the person down and say, hey, did you actually vote this way? Now, because you make it more secure on the front end, it's less likely that your vote is not going to count on the back end.